Thanks for joining us. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. It's actually 5:31, and we're going to start with the pledge if you'll join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with roll call, please, Randy.
All right. Trustee Winslow,
Present.
Trustee Kidda,
Here.
Trustee Leighton,
Here.
Trustee Everson,
Here.
Treasurer Rickower is absent, excused, Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present, Manager Kangas is here, Roger Zappa, our attorney, is here. Our staff present is Kim Clark, our finance director, is here. Superintendent Lenny Bodinas is here, and committee members here is Laura Niskern from the Library Committee. Is that everyone? I think so. Okay.
Okay. But that's okay. Any public comment? Anybody wish to address the board before we get started? Sure. Come on up, Jim. That's a good time.
Got it? Okay. Put it up there.
Jim Borowski is my recommendation farther down the agenda, and I asked him if he wanted to come up and introduce himself and say hi, just in case he didn't want to stay for the whole meeting. So if you want to.
I'll make it quick.
Okay.
I want to say hi. My name is Jim Borowski, President and CEO of Goodwill Industries of the UP and Northern Wisconsin. I've been a resident up here for over almost 17 years. I lived downtown for the last 10 in a condo. We lived out on the lake for a while. So I don't know if you don't know much about Goodwill, but we have five stores across the UP, one in Marquette here, obviously. We have a factory in Marinette, Wisconsin. We also have a training center in Marinette, and we have a training center in Houghton, so we're kind of a, well, best kept secret. And so I'm coming to you tonight to submit for my consideration a position on the DDA board. So I'm pretty active in a lot of other boards and a lot of community events, and we're kind of hidden in what we do, but we're really big in recycling is one of our issues or opportunities, really. So I'm excited to have the opportunity, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Appreciate
Thanks.
the introduction. Thanks for coming, too.
Sure.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Just name and address, please.
My name's Renee Martin, 2625 West Grove Street. And I was at a meeting about 2-3 months ago, maybe. And what I was here about was about a deer sign on Grove Street. And after when I left the meeting, I was told that I had to wait till springtime, and it's springtime, and 2 deer have already been hit on Grove Street. So I was wondering if anything has happened with that.
Okay, go ahead.
Not yet, but thank you for the reminder.
Okay.
We'll get on it.
Pardon me?
We'll get on it.
Okay.
I'll have Lenny work with the road commission to figure out how we can get that installed. And it won't be one, it would be one in each direction.
Sure. I was hoping.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so
I
much.
think the biggest thing is maybe we should try to meet with you
Sure.
to figure out where that crossing is so that we can get them well in advance of it. Otherwise, we're just wasting money.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try to connect here in the next couple of days.
Okay.
John, if you put the sign up, won't they cross right there then?
I think we have to paint stripes on the road too.
Yeah.
Crosswalk.
Okay.
We're all thinking that, so I just thought I'd say it.
Maybe you could call the office the next day or so,
Okay.
during the day, and catch John.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
And if I'm not available, Lenny.
Okay.
That gentleman right there in the blue shirt.
Okay, good. Anybody else wish to address the board? Okay, we'll get started then, thanks. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say, we did have other people that had come in and commented on signs on Werner also.
That was actually part of the discussion. It was Werner and Grove Street,
Okay,
the
so-
last time she was here.
They
Yep.
can all, I mean, we'll address them both then?
Since you reminded me, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we just need approval tonight for, sorry about my voice, keeps coming and going. The consent agenda, which includes approval of regular meeting minutes of April 16th, 2025. Excuse me. Bills payable in the amount of $250,037.20. No other committee reports, correspondence not requiring board action. I put in the University of Michigan close-up report, kind of interesting on public safety. And this is from elected officials, that information comes from, and some staff, actually. Respect Marquette County report from their meeting in April. There's an UPCO notice of hearing on May 6th. May 6th. I think that was supposed to be May 16th, because I put it in, no, it was May 6th. Okay, that's right. I knew it would be in the packet before the meeting. And the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority Chair report from April of 25, and Board of Trustee minutes from the Peter White Public Library from April 15th. And also their minutes in the Solid Waste Authority from April 16th.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we just need approval of the rest of the agenda unless somebody has changes.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we don't have any board education or privilege comment tonight. Community linkage, I just have 2 or 3 quick things to share with you. I knew this was going to be a long agenda and I didn't want to take too much time. We want to schedule a board photo, and Jason is available on right before 2 meetings from now, so June 4th. If you write that down on your calendar, and if for some reason it doesn't work, let me know. And we'll just meet here like about 5 and do it. He likes to go outside, so we'll see if that works. So 5 o'clock on June 4th, so 2 meetings from now. Also, if you're writing, you might remember that I'm on that 6-county consortium that the county appointed for the materials management of the 6 counties that are dealing with trash and recycling. And our next meeting is going to be at the landfill. We've been meeting in Escanaba at the QPAD office. And that'll be Thursday, May 29th. It's an open meeting, so anybody can come at 1 o'clock at the landfill. And there's 24 people that are involved in this 6-county consortium. And they wanted to see how the recycling operation was while it was working, because it's all conveyor belts and dumps, you know, things come out of the truck and then it's separated by conveyor belts and people standing up on the, well, it's way upstairs, and they're throwing, I've seen it, I mean, it's pretty interesting. So the rest of the group wanted to see how that functions. So we're gonna have the meeting there, and then we're going to Partridge Creek Compost in Ishpeming right after. So if anybody else wants to come, that's fine too. They're both open, so should be pretty interesting.
What did you say, 29th at what time?
1 o'clock, because that's when they're cranking during the day. We've been having our meetings at 3. And the only other thing I wanted to share with you was a county meeting that I went to last night. The place was packed. It was a 2-hour meeting, which is really unusual for them. But just a few things that they mentioned I wanted to point out. You know, we've had a little bit of a conversation about the jail. The county's thinking that they want to try to raise some money, however, to do a new jail or refurb this or move it or do something with it. They haven't decided yet. But it's an 80-bed jail, and last month they had 88 people, and this month it was 93. So they kind of housed everybody in there, and then they actually boarded out 30 more. They have 2 contracts, I don't know if it's Alger and Delta counties, I'm not sure which counties exactly, but some of anybody who hasn't been arraigned can't leave the city, or the county, I guess, maybe. So that's why they have to kind of crowd them in the jail as it is. But those that have been arraigned can be moved, and they had 30 that they farmed out, they call it. Civil Council also made a recommendation, the county civil, to get rid of 3 contracts, and one of them was the medical examiner, which I thought was kind of funny. And my question at the beginning was, what's the alternative? I wanted to make sure that they were going to have some kind of a discussion and not just cancel the contract. But apparently, this is the Michigan Institute of Forensic Science, and I think they're in Saginaw. And they've had terrible, terrible issues. And I mention it partly because the chair was really apologetic, and the vice chair, because there are 22 death certificates that haven't been processed. And they wanted to make sure that the public knew that it's not the county's fault, that they're trying to figure out what the problem is. So a legal recommendation was to cancel the contract, and they actually have contacted Dickinson County, and they're going to be maybe working with them. There's nothing set up yet, but for anybody who's kind of waiting on information, it's not the county. They've apologized profusely last night. They felt really bad. Then we had probably 8 or 9 people get up and speak about the condition of the country and the issues with funding cuts, and a couple of people told stories about family members whose benefits might be cut. They hadn't been. So one of the last people got up and asked if the county would do a resolution to oppose what's happening at the federal level. And the chair said that he would suggest that to everybody. So I'm suggesting it too, because he's suggesting that. So if that's something we feel like we want to do, we can do that. And then for anybody who's following the county, they still don't have an administrator. They are thinking at the next meeting they might look at some internal candidates rather than going out. But they will still consider both. So
I thought that was all taken care of.
the last candidate backed off.
Oh, he did?
They had 2 that they offered it to. Actually, there were 3. One, before they offered it to him, they ended up having to move somewhere else. I don't know, maybe his wife got a job or something, or he took another job. And then the next one, I think there was money issues with the next 2 people, I'm not positive. So all 3 of them said. So they are going to look internally. For anybody thinking of that. Okay, that's all I had to share. Anybody getting anything else from the public? Good, okay. I noticed our electric bill was $72 last month. Is that cool or what? Thanks to the solar panels? Okay, let's talk to Jill. First item up is to consider the revised purchase agreement from Renovari Marquette LLC, and Jill is online. Thanks for joining us. Can you hear me?
What happened here? We lost her. Here we go.
Recording progress.
There we go. There's Jill.
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're frozen, but I can hear you.
We can hear you. It might be our
Hi.
connection, but
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yep, as long as we can hear you.
Yeah.
Randy's trying to figure out the video, but as long
yeah,
as we can hear
we're
you, that's
okay.
fine.
We can hear.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. As you know, for the board's purposes and the public, we have received from you another purchase agreement in response to our response to your original one. And there were some changes. You've made some length of time changes and changed up the structure, not the structure, but the composition maybe of some of the homes that you were presenting. And I think that's mainly the question I have. We maybe can talk about the TIF a little bit, or whatever you think you want to share, if you want to start out. If you can.
She's here.
Sure. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knows where.
Oh. Having some internet problems here. Could be
Recording in progress.
be our server too.
You're not coming through, Jill. Hang on.
Yeah, let me try to reboot us here, Jill, and I'll see what happens. It's not on her end, it's on our end, I think.
Yeah, that should have been blue when I could make them just pick up the PDF.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, Roger, if you wanted to kind of give us a synopsis, but I don't know if it's something Jill might want to hear too. I don't want to leave her out of the conversation.
She'd probably want to hear.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you for now,
Oh,
anyway.
good. Okay, I'll try to go quickly.
That's okay.
In the document that we received that was a red line from the township attorney, we made just a few changes. Our changes are in purple. I think there were some questions about, I think somebody noted that they couldn't see where our changes were. Your attorney's changes are in blue, mine are in purple. And it's really just section 6, which added language that basic.
It'll be okay here in a second. It's switching off.
Hang on, Jill, if you can hear me. She doesn't talk while it's waiting.
Yeah. We must might have to just go like this until we're done. Okay, Jill, keep going here.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify in section 6 that we need to be financed, not asking you to approve TIF financing through the purchase agreement. Completely understand that that is separate, but we do need to be satisfied with the financing before closing. The way that it was written, we were going to have to close whether or not we could finance the deal. And with the site conditions there, it's not a site that we could purchase with cash and flip. So that was the suggestion that we made in section 6.
Okay. And then you're changing, are you still there?
She's there.
I'm here.
Okay, the screen went blank, I wasn't sure. Excuse me, you've changed up some of the, maybe it would be easier if I gave you, the last document we have, or I have, has, I thought I put it right on top, I did, okay. Has 13 two-bedroom units that were 60 and 120 AMI, and then of that, you had 8 eightplexes, 6 sixplexes, 10 duplexes, and I have prices on them, but I wasn't sure if you were keeping the number and the quantity and what the AMI is doing and then what the price is doing.
Sure. I can clarify all of that and let me know if you have any problems hearing me. When we originally planned the project, we were intending to keep the entire development except for the 8 3-bedrooms income restricted. That was our original plan, because when we came into this, we thought we would have at least a 20-year housing TIF plan. It was, one of the first things I said when we talked to the township to get the project under contract. But since then, we've heard, especially recently, that there's a lot of concern about long-term TIFs and the utilization of all that tax revenue. So we have modified the programming to only be a 10-year TIF. We have set aside 13 of the 48 units as income restricted. They are all the 2-bedroom cottages. And on the remaining units, and so those units will stay at 240,000. So there would be 13 units at 240,000. And then the remaining units, we have increased sales prices to be more in line with the market, but they're not that different. So we have in our programming, we have, and you know what, I apologize, but I need to pull up my TIF table because I don't want to say something that is not accurate. The sales prices that we're estimating right now are $285 instead of, so the $240 would be the 2-bedroom cottage that is income restricted. $285 would be the 2-bedroom cottage that is not income restricted. $285 would also be the 2-bedroom duplex. And then the 3 beds, we changed to $355. So there's really we're not up in the 400s. There's really not a huge change to the sales prices. There are slight changes that make the deal, that help it pencil with the reduction in tax increment financing. And we have submitted our Brownfield plan to the Brownfield Authority for their review with these numbers.
Okay, so originally the 2 bedrooms, the price I had was $272, so you're going up to $285. And then the 3-bedroom, you had 8 of those for $344, and they're going up to $355, so that's $11,000, it's not too bad. And
I think there was a change in between that, Lynn, because we had,
yeah.
We made some modifications, I think, in the fall after talking to Stephanie Jones and some others. So most recently, the 2 beds were $240 and the 3 beds were $340. So, and I'm happy to send this over, the sales price listing that we're currently at.
Yeah, that's what I said. I wasn't sure when this, it didn't really say on here, I don't think. It was just one page that you had sent. Lots of emails back and forth. Okay. What else do you want to tell us about the contract? Anything?
I will say that we really did want to nail down the closing date, that after this, we have to get through the county processes for the Brownfield plan, which may take a little time, and we have to finish our engineering and permitting with civil and storm and water and all those kind of good things with Jason McCarthy and his team. And the county pieces of that on storm and roads. So we do have a bit of work to do after we get past this stage, but I feel like we have shifted to a program that is less burdensome on the local tax revenue, still brings prices in that are below anything that's on the market that we can see, and allows us all to move forward comfortably.
Okay, sounds good. Roger, do you want to add to what she said about the contract, or anything that you've changed on here?
Well, there were a number of versions of it, some in black ink and some in red ink. So I went through as recently as today to try to compare the red line versions, and the version I have, our changes, my changes, were the red ink changes. The Renovari changes were in blue.
Okay.
And we talked about the red changes for the most part already, and I'm happy to answer or address any questions that might come up on those. But one of the key things that we inserted was that it had to be abundantly clear from the purchase agreement that just because the purchase agreement is being signed or executed does not bind this board to approving TIF financing, tax incremental financing, because at this point, we haven't seen that. I mean, we've now, as recently as the last few days, gotten an update with that 13 units would be workforce housing and so forth of the 48, and some pricing information, but we still don't have that to actually act upon. So that's all been added. We also added clarification that although we will cooperate in any type of permitting and so forth that has to happen to make this project move forward, that the township is legally required to enforce and administer its own zoning and other ordinances, and that we are not in a position to be able to give any special treatment or to waive any requirements. And that's standard language in situations like this when the county owns the property, or county, township, or any municipality owns the property. But that's in here now, just for clarification purposes. The major change, as Ms. Ferrari indicated, that they've requested is found at paragraph 6.2, and that is in blue ink, and that basically says that the purchaser must secure private financing that is satisfactory to purchase on or before the date of the closing. I mean, there's more to it than that, but essentially if the township board were to not approve a TIF plan of any type, and it sounds as if we're not talking about a 24-year or a 30-year tax incremental financing plan any longer, but a much shorter plan. But nonetheless, if this board would reject that, then Renovari would have the absolute right to withdraw from the purchase agreement. They would not be forced to purchase the property regardless of TIF financing or other private or public grants or financing they may be able to procure. And that's how the prior version that we submitted was worded, is that the township has had this property on the market and then off the market for a long time and would like to see it move forward. So the version that we sent with the red line language basically said, okay, we will extend the purchase closing date, but you need to be able to close, and there was a long discussion as far as would that be July 1st or September 1st, and I think we ultimately settled with September 1st was okay, but it has to close by then, and then we have to wash our hands with it, from it at the township level. That is what paragraph 6.2 changes, is if financing is not obtained to the satisfaction of the purchaser, they could still, despite signing this purchase agreement, could still back out of the transaction because it's contingent on acceptable financing. Now, in fairness, as I mentioned, I think at the last meeting, the second meeting in April of this board, that's not an unusual provision in many residential or commercial real estate transactions to have a contingency based on satisfactory financing. So this isn't something odd or bizarre, but it is something different from what you had in the prior version that was presented to this board. That is the primary difference. Now, because more time has elapsed, there are a couple of very minor loose ends in here that should probably be addressed. There was an inspection date that's referenced a couple of times, and the inspection date was April 10 of 2025, and the way the contract or the purchase agreement is now worded, it says at the, and I don't have that right in front of me, and I'm sure I will find it if I start flipping, but it references that date, and that date has come and gone. So I believe, and Ms. Ferrari can correct me if I'm wrong here, that Renovari has undertaken a great deal of inspection already, so that might be essentially a moot point. But there's a sentence or two in there that should probably be updated to correct that.
Okay, it looks like it's section 4, 411. I think this is the...
Yes,
the
that's
latest
that's
version.
one of them. And it gives the purchaser the right to pull out of the transaction at, as of the inspection date, but the inspection date has elapsed, is my recollection. So we could tweak that in a matter of about 3 minutes. I mean, that's not a major rewording, but we would have to adjust that.
Okay, that we would put in some kind of a date, or they'd recommend one, or you?
Well, the date has come and gone.
Right, or maybe
My
leave it off.
understanding is all inspections that they wished to perform have been satisfactorily completed.
Okay, so you changed the sentence?
Yes.
then. Okay, not just the
Not the date.
Okay.
I think the only thing that we don't have yet is title. That's the one piece that I'd want to pull as we move forward, pretty quickly. I don't think we've pulled title yet, so I definitely want to get that done and make sure there aren't any major issues there.
And I can assure there won't be, because I happened to be the township attorney about 30 years ago when this was acquired. But in any event, you need to do that. And
Yeah.
title insurance, that's another blank that's in the agreement, is who is the title agent going to be? And there are a number of choices, and since the purchaser is paying for the title insurance, I would submit that that should be up to the purchaser to determine whatever title agent they wish to use. And there are several excellent choices right here in Marquette to pick from.
And that, if you're okay with that, I had reached out to Shannon, who's not on this call tonight, to find out who she wanted to use. And I do have an answer to that, but I don't have it in front of me. But she found somebody in Marquette that she'd like to use.
I can't think of any, and obviously I'm speaking maybe a little bit out of turn here. It's up to the board to approve, but I can't think of any of the major title agencies in Marquette Township that would pose any red flags to the
Right.
township.
Okay. Is that something we would have to have?
Not really.
information before we do this? Just don't want to hold stuff up.
What title insurance is, it's a policy just guaranteeing that Marquette Township has marketable title, that there aren't any odd things in the chain of title that would need to be corrected. And even if there are odd things in the chain of title that do arise, then the parties are given a period of time to investigate or correct those, and that's already in the purchase agreement. There's a protocol, and that's pretty standard of what's in the purchase agreement. Again, no peculiarities in the way that's worded in this contract.
Okay. Is that pretty much all you see as stuff that we need to address?
As long as Renovari is indicating that they are okay with or approving the prior changes that were all in the red version, then essentially yes, I think. The question that would face this board is whether it wishes to move forward based on the available information with making it a contingent purchase agreement that is contingent on Renovari's ability to obtain financing to their satisfaction. That, because that is a significant change or revision to what you had before you last time we talked about this as a public body.
Okay.
That's the key element.
Okay. John?
That contingency is in the language though, so you can approve this negotiated agreement as presented with the minor tweak about the inspection to clear up that language because the date has passed. And I know both parties have negotiated in good faith, and my recommendation would be to approve it as presented with that minor tweak.
If anybody had issues on the blue that they saw in the contract, because that would be the changes that Jill made. Clear as mud? I guess I have one more question too, Jill. I guess I'm confused because I thought in your original presentation you said that Vista, because of the money that you were getting from them, were requiring so many units or a percentage or what? That's what I'm trying to clarify, of the workforce pricing, basically. And I'm guessing that that's still the case with the changes that you made?
Yes, and just to sidebar for a second, we did pull title. It's just been a while. So we pulled it in November of 2023 and completed an Alta survey, and I apologize, it's just been a while, and I forgot that we had done that. There aren't any issues on the title that we pulled. We'll update it for closing and let you know if anything comes up, but we did pull it. So sorry about that, Lynn.
Okay.
So we did receive $1.3 million award for the My Neighborhood program. That will mean that 13 units will be covered under that program. So they will be up to 120% AMI. So we're just overlapping the workforce housing for the Brownfield TIF with the MISTA units. They are the same units.
Okay, good, okay. That's what I wasn't sure. All right, questions, anybody? Oh, Roger?
I know I've talked a lot, but
No.
a couple of real quick
Good stuff.
points that I should have addressed. There was some communication with me between the supervisor and myself on a question of, will the change, the reduction of workforce units require an amendment or a change to the planned unit development plan that the Planning Commission for Marquette Township has already approved? And that's a fairly lengthy, detailed process to approve a PUD. And again, Ms. Ferrari can address that briefly, but she confirmed in written form just a couple of days ago that it will not change the actual planned unit development plan. And by that, what I was referring to is if, for example, the developer was going to make the lots larger and instead of a total of 48 units, have a total of 40 units, for example. That would require moving boundaries, it would require utility service changes, it would require a whole host of changes to what the Planning Commission already acted upon in an initial and a final PUD approval. We've been reassured that this reduction in the number of workforce units won't change where the units are located, and it won't change the boundaries of the lots or anything else that was actually approved by the Planning Commission in the PUD. And my concern was that September 1 closing date we had talked about at either the last meeting or the meeting before might not be terribly viable anymore if we had to start over from scratch, and that includes public hearings and so forth at the Planning Commission level. That should not be necessary based on the additional information provided by the developer in this case.
Sounds good. Randy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the revised purchase agreement for Renovari Marquette LLC as presented with the minor change suggested by legal counsel from Marquette Township.
Support.
Okay. Questions? Listen.
It would have been nice if we would have had color.
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
When it's printed, yeah. Yeah.
There was some
I
confusion
Should have thought about that.
with that,
So
so.
we used to, yeah. In the packet, it comes out in color, but when you get a printed packet.
Online it does, yeah.
It's not. Did you have any questions about any of the changes or?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, you would have had to.
I have one question for Jill. You had mentioned at the last meeting that some of the inspections of the property showed some of the soil conditions not quite up to par. Could you elaborate on that, what they follow?
Yes, so there is, at varying depths, there is, and I'm happy to send you the language from the geotechnical report, as I'm a lawyer, not a civil engineer. But I don't remember if it's sand or there is a certain type of soil, and the compaction in that soil is not suitable for development. So it is forcing us to make changes to our foundations, and making some other changes because of the soil instability. But I'm happy to send you the language from that report so that you can see. It's your property, so you should know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. What do we want to do about the date? I mean, we have a motion without any specificities, so.
Well, the question is, do you think you can still do was it September 1 date, I believe? Can you still do that, Jill? Is that?
I think there are still two unknowns. One is the remainder of the brownfield process. We will be hopefully at the BRA on Monday. We just submitted our documents today, so want to give Antonio and Ann as much time as they need to go through everything. But that's the next step, is for them to go through and look at that 10-year TIF and make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We have been looking at most of this information for a long time, so I'm hoping that happens quickly. And then the unknown piece is MISHDA's role in this process, because this will be the first housing TIF up here that MISHDA has participated in. So that is an unknown. And then the other piece is the permitting and the remainder of the engineering. And I do need to circle back with Jason and John and others and really figure out exactly what our next steps are there. I think it is doable. It's just there are some unknowns. And we did pull in a partner that I should note, a group called Wildflower, which is doing some single-family homes to help build our capacity in the Upper Peninsula and give us a physical presence there. They know the trades, they know the materials up there, so we have signed a letter of intent with them, and they are helping us to move forward as quickly as possible. So with that partnership, I think that closing date is more doable.
Okay,
That's good to hear.
Do you want to amend your motion to put that in there?
it's in there already. It's in the purchase agreement
One of
already.
them is blank, I thought. Okay, the agreement, the date of the agreement, so in that case, it'd be today.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Anything?
So Jill, the September 1 closing date would be as we agreed upon in the past then.
Yes, that's what we're planning for.
Okay,
Okay, we're good?
I'll call the question then.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right.
Lenny's up next.
In person, I don't know how to do this. Do I look at the screen? All right, consider purchase of building and grounds tractor.
So this is going to be for a new building and grounds tractor. We have a John Deere tractor currently. It's a 2009 model. It still works fine, but it's not really meeting our needs. One main thing with the current tractor we have, it actually has a cab on it, but it's not the proper cab for the model. So our operators are getting gassed out. It's sucking in the fumes. We've tried a couple different options to make it better, but it's just not working. We've also been making some repairs to it. The most recent repair was we had a water pump blow up and it shot parts through the radiator, so that took all that stuff out. Luckily, we have a person on staff that's pretty handy with machinery. He was able to fix it, but if we were to have to bring it in somewhere to get it done, it would have been pretty expensive. Another main issue with this too is it doesn't have a bucket. Our current snow blower and sweeper model that's on, it's more, it's not really residential, but it's not really commercial either. So we have to repair, especially the snow blower quite often, we have to do welding on the parts on their lots, because if they hit something hard, it starts cracking. So now we just kind of feel it's kind of time to maybe upgrade to a bigger tractor that's going to be better for our needs here. It will be able to move snow better, be more industrial. The sweeper will be able to do a better job, more industrial. In our 2025 CIP, we originally had a building and grounds truck plan for that. Instead, we were able to reappropriate another truck from our fleet for use in the building and grounds department. So instead, we're asking to see if we can get a tractor. And then if this is approved, we'll bring back the John Deere tractor we have for surplus, and then we'll get see what that's going to be worth. I've been kind of doing a little bit of checking to see what it's worth. It's going to be worth a little bit of money, but not a ton. So, but I'll get more accurate numbers on that in the future.
Do you remember how much you had budgeted in the CIP?
I want to say it was like
close?
55,
Okay.
60,000. So out of the 3 bids we had, we got our 3 quotes that we had. LS out of Rock is actually coming in. They have all the attachments that we need, which would be a snow blower and a sweeper. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit more heavy duty. They came in. They also have a $3,500 rebate after we purchase it. And the initial price would be $52,600, but after the rebate it would be $49,100, and that'll be coming with the bucket, the loader attachment, the snow blower, and the sweeper model. And it's actually a little bit bigger tractor, 2 more horsepower.
Okay. Questions? Pleasure?
So Lenny, that's your recommendation?
Yes, LS is my recommendation on the rock.
I would move that we purchase that LS tractor. I've done the research for my own self, and it's a good way to go. Support.
Okay. Any questions for Lenny? All in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we do have something surplus.
So this is for that red truck that's out in the parking lot. It's the old building and grounds pickup truck. It's a 2007 Chevrolet Silverado. It's pretty much really has reached the end of its useful life. And originally we were going to try to maybe put out bids for $1,000, but the battery was dead. So they took it for a ride at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and they said the problem's over. So it started the oil. There's no oil pressure on it. So. There's a couple different things we can do, which means the engine's pretty much shot in it. There's a couple different things we can do. Maybe we could put it up for surplus only for parts, or we can just bring it to the scrap yard. Right now, it looks like scrap for a parts truck is $620. So we can start at $620, put it for bids, and see if somebody wants to buy it only for parts, not for driving, or if the board wants, we can just bring it right up to the scrap yard.
So they'd have to tow it away. It won't
You
start.
can drive it, but I don't know if I would trust driving it too far.
Not too far.
Yeah.
So what's your recommendation?
I think it could be for value for somebody that has parts. That want a part vehicle, it'd be kind of a shame to totally junk it, but I would deem it only for parts only, and I would just start at what the bidding at what the scrap value is. So right now it's $620. That could change, but
That would be an as-is, where-is sale,
yeah.
as our attorney would definitely require we do.
And if no one buys it, we're not out anything. We
No,
just
we'll
take
just-
it to
we'll
the.
just get it up to
so-
the junkyard
So
and
it
get
might
some
help
gravel.
someone.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion, we declare the 2007 Chevy Silverado a surplus. Start it.
Motion and support. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, just one. You're cleaning house.
Yes.
Now we have the Zamboni. That's lasted quite a few years.
It has.
Got it used.
So, I mean, it's a 1972 model Zamboni. It's had a good run, but I think the end is here. It does run, but this winter especially, we had to do a lot of work to it. It wasn't running right. We've had to do some welding on it. It was actually a gasoline engine that was converted to propane, which means that, especially when it gets really cold out, it doesn't like running very good. Even when they brought it back up to the garage, it was only running on 2 cylinders. So I think it's seen its better days. So there are a couple different options if we do happen to get rid of that. is we can try to maintain the ice rink with a tractor and a sweeper try to polish it or maybe, flood it a different way. There's another option the board would like us to investigate. If there are actually smaller Zambonis that are made to go on the back of tractors like you just approved. They're about $10,000, but they are like a mini Zamboni for smaller rinks like we have. So we can investigate that. So that would be, if you guys want me to investigate that, I can. If not, if you want us to try different options with what we have, we can try that as well.
So I would make a recommendation that you explore the options. The ice rink is a huge positive in our community, used by many, many people. And so we want it to be in working condition.
Right.
When we have ice.
When we have ice.
Yes.
Well, I'm still voting for a roof over the ice rink, so you don't want to get me started.
I'll make a motion, we declare the Zamboni a surplus.
Or,
Okay, John?
I don't know if I should say anything or not. I don't disagree with Linda's point. I think it's a very valuable resource for the community. I do think with how short the season is, having a Zamboni for our outdoor ice rink is not a necessity. I think we can get good ice with a hose, especially if we use hot water or even warm water. It will melt down the bumps pretty well. It's more a matter of getting the surface cleared before flooding it. We're the only community locally that has a Zamboni for an outdoor ice rink. It's nice to have. It's kind of a nice status symbol, but not at the cost that it's leading to currently. So I don't disagree with looking at the option to see if it's feasible, but I don't know that it's necessarily a requirement to have a resurfacing machine.
I'd still like you to look at the options.
Yeah, definitely can look at it.
Again, I'm not saying you can't do it, but I know flooding the ice rink during the day and hoping for it to freeze when it's cold at night. I mean, I think you need experts that know what they're doing with all that flooding and whatever, certainly not me. But I think it's okay to look at, and again, you don't ever know where money is gonna come from. And we do get money that we don't always allocate to something, and that's a very visible community benefit.
Right, yeah, I've already looked at it, so I mean, the documentation's easy to pull up,
Yeah.
so.
So, and if we can do it and it's acceptable, there's nothing wrong with that.
So I'll back up really quick too. So I'm recommending $1,000. I don't even really know. I've looked online all over the place and I can't find anything comparable for this old for sale. And it would probably really take the right person to want it. But I mean, we could put it on Facebook Marketplace and eBay to see if we can get a wider net on it. But I would start at like $1,000, and if we don't sell that, then we can see how much scrap value is for that as well. I would like somebody, if they could use it for parts, by all means. But if, who knows, there's not really a big demand for those for using Zambonis anymore. So
Other than parks.
yeah. So.
Okay. So, the question first is the surplus part. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
That was the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, not the 10,000 or,
No.
that was just a recommendation. Okay, so the board's okay. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the surplus part, and just let us know what you find out on all of these.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be.
Yes,
maybe just
definitely.
in your report or something.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. All right, now we're down to Raftellus, which is exciting, I think.
So upon the final purchase of our share in the water filtration plant, we kind of have to have some kind of working agreement with the city about how everything is going to be run and all the particulars and little components of it. So Raftellus, who the city's also familiar with, they will help us kind of start the process of getting an agreement in place. So that would include like the level of service, the cost sharing, dispute resolution, all the nuts and bolts of an agreement. They'll start that and then they'll come back to us in the city and we'll be able to talk about it back and forth with attorneys and come to a working agreement. So this would kind of be them starting the framework of it, starting giving us ideas and kind of starting putting a draft into place.
I'll move to consider the Raftellus proposal for assistance in crafting an interlocal water agreement.
motion and support. John?
So Raf, tell us, we'll write the technical language in draft form. And then the attorneys will have to make sure all the legalese is up to snuff. So that hopefully we can get the agreement signed maybe in September. October is really the date we're shooting for to finalize the purchase agreement. Or, yeah, I guess that's really what it is.
And I believe they'll have actually meetings with us too, with the board and stuff, where we can talk back and forth, and they can kind of give updates throughout that process too. So there'll be a lot of communication back and forth.
So I saw, looking at this agreement, there was an option about having them come here and do a presentation to us that they offered for $6,000, is that correct?
I think we would
We
ask
don't-
them to attend remotely.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the motion.
They only put that as an option. I don't
Right,
think
that-
they ever anticipated us to require them to come in person.
Okay, so then the motion would include what we're agreeing to pay?
Yeah, not the option.
Yeah, okay,
So
well,
as
just so
part of-
that's
part
clear
of the-
to people.
The base part of it, they would have a virtual availability.
Yes,
in there,
we
so-
like virtual,
Yeah.
right, and it works. Just saying.
Okay. Any more questions?
So I just have one more question. So when does the current water, whatever it's called, expire?
October. I don't know what the date is.
So it expires in October, so it will be dropping off people's bills.
The discount is already gone.
Yeah.
because
I know
we-
that
we-
part.
She's
done.
talking about
No,
the debt payments.
The
The
debt
last
payment.
debt payment will be in October.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So actually it'd be in like the November bills, because we're a month behind.
I think so, yes, yeah.
We have a lot of Ts to cross and Is to dot between now and then. I don't think, as long as this process goes smoothly, that will be an issue. We still have to get the financing, so there's going to be more bonds to sell. That's the other part of this equation that we need to be working on in parallel. So at some point, we will probably be coming back to you with more agreements from Miller Canfield and PFM. They're the ones that helped us refinance our buildings to get the bonding in place for that purchase.
so my real question is it gonna drop off before all this happens? Because once people see a drop off and an add-on,
Our goal is to avoid that if at all possible. Rather, we would be explaining to them that we will be adding new debt to replace the old debt. We don't know if it will increase, decrease, or stay the same yet. Because that number's not really etched in stone until we pick a
Correct.
sale date.
correct?
It was originally 2.3 million, it's now up to 2.4 something. By October, there will be an additional inflation factor to put on there. Call it 2.5. I don't know what it'll be, but it's probably gonna be something like that. Divided by the number of customers we
Yeah.
have based on
Yeah.
the same type of formula we currently have in place for current debt payments.
Well, in my mind, the more we can get out there to people so they know what's going on, really, the better it is, because I can tell you there's a huge shock if someone sees. And they'll fill this room. So, I'm a believer in proactive information.
We'll do our best to keep
Education.
communication and information going out there as best we can,
Yeah,
just so people know.
so, right, they'll be thrilled to see it drop off.
Some,
Okay. All right, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you. All right, consider my recommendation to appoint James Borowski to the Downtown Development Authority Board. You have, oops.
I would move that we do that. Support.
Questions? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Thank you. My board is full. Thank you, James. Okay. G is to consider the first reading of amendments to the animal control ordinance. I think it away to John. Or Roger, whichever of you.
I don't know if you want to hear about my opinions on animal control at this point. I'll
Well,
let
we
the
have
attorney
heard
start.
some, So we know.
Well, basically what you have before you is an amendment to an ordinance that was adopted 42 years ago. And it was amended once 30 years ago to change the rate of the fines. The amendments that are being proposed are fairly minor. The first one is, there have been a lot of changes in the Right to Farm Act since the 1980s, not so much in the statute itself, but in the cases interpreting it. So we've come to appreciate that the Right to Farm Act deals only with commercial farm or farm product operations. But to cut to the chase, the language in the existing ordinance probably violated the Right to Farm Act in its current understanding of how it's interpreted. So this just is a minor amendment that says that livestock and poultry may be owned, kept, or possessed for personal, non-commercial use or consumption only in those zoning districts specified in the Marquette Township zoning ordinance. There was no cross-reference to that before. It listed specific areas where they could be kept, and they didn't match the zoning ordinance. So you don't have to remember to amend both of them. If this ordinance just defers to the zoning ordinance, whenever a change occurs in the zoning ordinance, it'll automatically be in compliance. That's all that really does. And it also goes on to say, to the extent that people are conducting commercial or commercial farm product production, that then the Right to Farm Act will supersede this and will override. And that would happen regardless of whether that sentence is in there, but it makes it clearer to anybody reading the ordinance what the intent is. The next amendment is section 10. We had a brief discussion that basically there's an inconsistency between state law and your ordinance on the leashing of dogs. And the state statute says that dogs must be held in leash. Now, if that language sounds a little bit archaic, it's because that came from a statute that was adopted in 1919. But the law itself is still completely valid, and this will just track that statute to make the two consistent with each other. The next change is the fines for violation of the statute have not been looked at or adjusted in 30 years. And you're still subject to a cap on what the maximum fine is, so that's not even changing. $500 is the maximum amount, but the proposed minimum goes up a negligible amount for first, second, third, and fourth or subsequent offenses. And that's in the packet that you have before you. The first violation within a 3-year period would be $150 is what's being proposed. So you'll be good, I guess, on that timeline until 2055 to change those again. But, and then the standard language is in all other respects. Ordinance 092083 will remain in full force and effect.
Okay, John?
The only thing I would add to that is if a $150 fine is proving to not be effective, after a while, you can always come back and change it up to $500 on the first offense. So I think it's a way of reminding people that we're doing this for a reason. And it's not just to protect other people, it's also to protect the dogs, which has proven to be a challenge. So I just want you to know that that is possible to come back and change it as early as a couple meetings after the ordinance is officially adopted.
Is this a 30-day waiting period once it's posted with the first reading, or 15?
Well, I had forwarded, when I sent this for the board packet, a checklist of steps that need to be followed in the adoption of a non-zoning ordinance, and this is a non-zoning ordinance. So there are actually 2 publication requirements in it.
30 days, okay.
So it's 30 days thereafter, once those other steps are completed.
So the first reading is just informational, basically, for the board, and then the second reading is where it really comes into effect. So
And if we get it, all of our ducks in a row, assuming you approve this first reading, we'll get it scheduled for the next meeting for the second reading.
then publication, and then it'll go
Correct.
on. Yeah.
And we do have to still publish a notice of the proposed amendments before the second reading.
Correct. But from what I'm seeing in the classified sections these days, we've got plenty of space. So that shouldn't take too long for us to be able to push that through.
I'll move to accept the amendments to the animal control ordinance as a first reading.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. Questions? Do we need a roll call?
Not for the first reading, no.
Linda, did you have a question?
So it says animal everywhere, it doesn't say dog. So it's any animal.
Yeah, they're listed, it says,
Okay,
working dogs.
so it's cats and
Leading
chickens
dogs, guard
and
dogs,
all
guard
that
dogs,
stuff that
guard
could be
dogs.
running crazy down your streets.
Let me address that.
Yes, good idea.
It doesn't say animal anywhere, because it does everywhere else in the ordinance. In section 10, that this amendment is of, again, this tracks directly from the dog law of 1919. So it doesn't mean your cat or your gerbil or anything else that you might have has to be leashed. It only applies to dogs for that portion. Other animals, however, are still not permitted to essentially run at large. So if you've got your bull gets loose or whatever, you've still got to keep it penned or caged or under control. So there are slightly different language provisions when you read the ordinance as a whole. The leashing is strictly with regard to dogs, to canine animals.
In section 10,
Correct.
that's what we're changing.
I'm looking at section 10 right now. Section 10A1 says.
That's the language currently in place. You have to look at his proposed revision to see the compliance
Is it
with
in
state
red?
law.
Yeah, what you're looking at is what you're replacing, what you're getting rid of.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's hard to tell with no color. Right, Dan?
Right.
Okay.
I hope everyone understands the packets are done in black and white to save cost.
Yes.
I'll have you know, I sent them in red.
They're in the packet.
Oh my gosh. Hey. Anyways, yay. Just my reminder here about dogs are not to be running loose.
Well, Randy was telling me that that's where the original ordinance came from in '83, that they were running loose.
They were.
No big deer or anything else.
We grew up with them running loose.
Well, that's why there was no deer in Trowbridge Park, because the dogs are chasing them
Oh,
away.
well, maybe that's okay.
Keep it
Okay,
under
thanks, Roger.
control.
I'm looking for your version on my computer.
Anything else?
No,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So we won't just assume that this goes on the agenda in 30 days. We'll wait until it's posted or advertised.
It could be on the May 21 agenda,
Okay.
depending on whether the interim steps have been complied with. We'll have to monitor that and
Okay.
make sure we're in compliance.
Sounds good. Okay. Non-Point Dead River Tributary Culvert Replacement Project.
So this is a project a few years in the making. Back in 2021, Marquette Township was awarded an Eagle grant for a non-point source pollution grant for $293,000, or $293,356. It's been kind of a long go, but we finally got some plans together, and we got put out for bids, and we got some bids back. So the bid that we had received, so the original project was originally supposed to be for four culverts in Trowbridge Park. And, but as costs started escalating throughout the years, for the last few years, the project kind of was gonna get scaled back. So, we've been working with our consultant, we've been working with the engineer, with the Marquette County Road Commission, and we were able to come up with this. So right now, with the grant that we will receive from Eagle, some money that the Marquette County Road Commission will be able to put in, and possibly some more money Eagle will be able to find. Right now, we're pretty much guaranteed that we can get 2 culverts done, and there's a possibility we can get 3. And then hopefully in the future, we'll be able to get the 4th one done. So right now, with MJ Van Dam's bid that they put in, it's actually for 3 culverts. That's in best case scenario right now. It might be possible, but for sure we can do 2. If the funds are available, we might be able to get 3. So Marquette Township has paid for some engineering for this up until this point. Right now, the project will be taken over by the Marquette County Road Commission. We'll still do the grant administration. But the grant should cover it, and some of the funds that the county is going to be kicking in will also cover it. But it's still kind of in flux how much money we're going to get from Eagle. We know we're going to get $293,000, but there might be more. So that's kind of what this resolution is for. It's dependent on securing the funds for it. So the low bid was from MJ Van Dam for $550,435.02. And that will be for sure for 2 culverts, possibly 3, but that's depending on funding. And this will also include the utility relocation. So normally if the county does culverts anywhere in the road system, we're responsible for doing relocation of water and sewer. That will all be covered in this, so we won't have to pay for that.
I would move to approve the resolution as presented and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign with the caveat, how much is he allowed to ask for? I don't need it.
Well, this is covered though.
I'll support that.
Wow. He sits down and gets
The
up
good
and
news
asks for
is
more
this
money.
isn't the township's money this time.
Right, I know, that's
Yeah.
good.
I think I've hit all the high points unless, okay.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I have. What's the location of this project?
So the 2 culverts for sure that will happen are Huron Street and then Erie Street, and then possibly Norwood if we can.
Backyard Creek.
Backyard Creek, yeah. So we're starting at the downriver culverts and moving up. So the main purpose of it is for sedimentation control. The pollution would be the sediment, but the byproduct will be able to help with, normalizing the stream flow and everything through there. But the main purpose of it is for pollution control.
You had some pictures? Can we see
No,
them?
no.
Working?
No, that's not for that.
Oh,
It's a resolution, so it has to be a roll call
okay. Go
vote.
ahead.
So trustee Kidda,
Aye.
clerk retires, yes. Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Leighton,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Thank you.
Can you go home now?
Yes.
He knows I'm kidding.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Consider change order number 1 for Trailhead parking lot.
Start at the other end, right?
I can do that. Well, just click down there, John. The clicker will work. And then you can go back.
All right. This project progressed far quicker than we could get you information in a public setting. So I think we're actually beyond the point of requesting approval for a change order. Rather, requesting approval for a change order and to pay it. The project's done. as of this morning, we did the final inspection. And I have to admit publicly that I did have to take some risk to keep the contractor on site and get it done. This was basically start to finish a 2-week project. And things escalated out there fairly quickly because of natural bedrock that we could not afford to blast. So instead of balancing the site with material that we thought was native fill, you can't move bedrock, we had to haul extra material in. So purchase, transport, spread, compact, all that good stuff. Before he could do the work that he was supposed to do because he couldn't just spread it around the site. That added significant cost. There was additional reorientation of the parking lot because of the bedrock so that we could get the minimum number of parking stalls we were trying to get. The plan said 25. When I requested pricing, I requested a minimum of 30. I think we got about 35, and some would argue you might be able to fit 50 cars out there without clogging up the aisle down the middle. I'm not exactly sure. We might find out as early as Saturday how many cars you can fit there. But the work is done. I apologize that we didn't come to you sooner with the change order. It happened in the last 2 weeks. We had a 3-week break between meetings this time. So the timing was actually, while nice to have the extra week between meetings, it was difficult to get you information in a timely fashion. These photos, as you can see, it's a beautiful looking project. We don't have vegetation yet in the topsoiled areas, but beautiful site as you drive down the well road and approach the project. This is showing the northwest edge, and you can see that bedrock. He basically had to fill right up against it. In fact, right on the top there you can see a wet spot. That's where the bedrock is sort of still seeping that winter drainage down on, and he's got a sort of a ditch. It's pretty shallow, draining off to the north into a little retention area before it would spill over. There's also some additional under drain, some French drain, because there's a pocket in the bedrock that just captures water that we couldn't chip a ditch into to drain out, so that pocket's got to hold water in crushed stone until it can get over that bedrock edge and seep through. So there's added cost and time there. Going back to the reorientation, let me see if I can get there. This area here, well, you see all these boulders?
Yeah.
That's all remnants of the Phase 1 water project. They had to blast their way down that well road to get the pipe in the ground, and there's piles of this stuff all over the place out there. A couple of the piles happen to be where we built the parking lot. So we had to do something with it. Some of it became fill, some of it became landscaping. And you'll see that there's rocks spread out like this throughout the entire project. Some of it was extra work. There's a different angle of it. There's Matt giving us a thumbs up. Matt did this by himself with a rented excavator and skid steer. We still have some kind of soft spots where it was the most wet. He got the topsoil out, but it was raining so much that first week. At some point you have to put stone down on top of it, and we're waiting for that to dry out before we do any additional compaction to it so that we don't just create mush. Anyway, this bedrock stuff, we call that differing site conditions in my world. You can't predict it all. Even if we had done soil borings, we probably wouldn't have found all the various areas where bedrock exists out there. I think most contractors would probably win the argument on differing site conditions when you don't have all of that information up front. It was a risk that we took. We were going to pay for it one way or another. So this is kind of facing the northwest. You can see there's a couple boulders where you don't want people cutting into that parking lot too early. And then he added an extra row along that north edge. And you can see in that upper left corner, that's that exposed bedrock face that we encountered relatively quickly. Also, underneath that entrance, once you get into the parking lot, it's bedrock 6 inches or less below that gravel all the way across. So, let's see. This is facing directly north. I don't know if you can tell, but up at the top of the picture, there's kind of a ridge. So the parking lot sort of goes up to a peak and then it goes back down. And if you look at it, you scratch your head saying, why didn't they just make the smooth all the way across? Well, we would have probably needed another 1,000 yards of fill, which I didn't have 100,000. I wanted to come and ask you for. So Matt made it work, and I think it's a pretty good final product. This is just facing the pavilion from the south entrance, and you can see he has a row of rocks partially lined up there. That's to keep vehicles from getting too close to that nice, beautiful structure. There's still a gap there because NTN's got some crushed limestone coming to spread out between the gravel and the edges of that slab. That may be happening as early as this Saturday when they have their dirt ball. So this is that area between the parking lot and the road. There was supposed to be a stand of trees remaining here, but you can see there's a utility pole in the middle. That's 3-phase power on top, single-phase power below. That's where we're getting our power source. There was basically a row of 6 trees left, all real high canopy, with the power line, 3-phase power supporting our well system immediately downwind of the prevailing winds. We figured those trees were going to end up on the power lines eventually. We had them clear that whole area out and then re-landscape that. Part of my job this weekend during dirt ball, I'm going to go in and cut all of the underbrush out so they don't just grow right back up under those power lines. And we intend to seed all of that area with native species. This is, you can see another sort of whaleback sticking up right in that same area, bedrock. We knew we were going to have some, we didn't know it would be as much as we encountered. You can see that huge boulder on the left side there, that's going to have a trailhead sign of some sort on it at some point. It's a nice big flat face. It used to be on the opposite side by that bedrock sticking out, and this is a better location for people as they're approaching. This is another row of rocks that he put out for us that had nothing to do with the project, but we had to move rocks, we had to pay him for it, and we have some cleanup to do. That's the new gate location just to the south of that second entrance. We had to have new posts made because the old ones, one of them, the concrete that it was set in, was underneath our guardrail, and it would have costed us far more to remove and replace that guardrail than to just buy new materials and make new posts. So our guys fabricated those. They poured them yesterday. We're hoping to have the gate on in the next day or two so that when NTN has their work be out there on Saturday, people won't be just blasting right on through, although there will be crews going through the gate to get further into the system. This is the other side. We had a big opening between that post and the nearest trees. We figured that's a perfect place for ATVs and side-by-sides to get in, so he moved some huge boulders for us that the typical ATV winch probably won't move, and they're arranged where you would have to be a really good Jeep driver to get over those. So we'll see what happens, Lynn. And that's really it. But there's quite a bit of work. Oh, those posts, he also dug the holes for us for those too, instead of us having to bring equipment down there. So him being there, we got a lot accomplished that was never part of the original plan. And that's why the project went over quite a bit. But I think we got a really good project out of it, and I hope you will agree that the risk was worth taking to get that work done while he was on site. So my request is to authorize final payment of the original contract, approve the change order, and immediately authorize payment of that because the work is done. That way Kim can do direct payments into his account tomorrow.
I move that we do that. I saw the site in the middle of winter and I was like, how on earth are you gonna get a parking lot out here? I mean, that's phenomenal.
If you get a
Considering all of the
chance.
junk that they had to move to be able to get it in there, that's amazing.
The only other thing I want to say, we did get a couple calls inquiring why the road's closed and how long it's going to be. I'm hoping that after this weekend, we can open it to the public.
I'll support Carl's motion.
Support.
John supported it.
Okay. Any questions for John? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
For the record, the final invoice amount is $6,272. That's the final payment on the original contract. And the change order amount is the total of the change order, $26,200.73. And then he's basically gone. His rental equipment, if it hadn't been picked up this afternoon, will be gone probably tomorrow.
That was the other reason John kind of pushed him, because we had a chance to have him there and the equipment there.
If he left, we don't know when he would be back, because he's going downstate, where all the ice storm damage is. And that might be the rest of the year.
I saw that firsthand. It's
Ice damage.
unbelievable. You can't fathom it from pictures. It's just unbelievable.
Okay, lots of good business.
Thank you for that, by the way. I knew I was sticking my neck out and you didn't have to support it, but I really do believe we got a good project.
You'd have just had to pay for it yourself, so.
Get the checks.
You know, we got our money's worth. I
So-
mean, there was a lot of gravel hauled in there. You know, and he just pays for it, you know, it's something, it's not anything that he's making money on, he's just gotta get it there.
Okay,
So just so the public knows that, that funding is coming as stated from the general fund?
That is correct. The change order amount would be a direct transfer from the general fund, which will come in a budget amendment from Kim here in the next meeting or two. And we're basically looking at excess interest revenue we had over our budgeted amount from last year. That's how the money ended up in the general fund in the first place.
okay. Do we have a planning commission update of any kind?
Well, I guess, I was not at the meeting. I did watch it online. And there was a short-term rental request, and that hearing will be in the middle of May. So the next meeting is canceled, but the fourth Wednesday, there will be a meeting for the planning commission. So we'll look at that. We did approve for the new golf simulator building and properties to get up and running. So those of you who are golf pros, I guess, is that what they're called? Golf pros, whatever. They'll be able to golf all winter. So that's pretty exciting. They're saying they're very busy. The other thing is, I think the blight ordinance is all through everything, right? It's spent its 30 days, and we're now ready to enforce the blight ordinance? Is that my understanding? Or we're not real sure
Well,
yet?
There was supposed to be another item on your agenda tonight, but I wasn't gonna tell you about that until later.
Oh.
And that is the job description for the person that would be doing that enforcement, part-time. I actually think now that I've processed it a little bit more, we have to get the personnel committee together first to make that recommendation to the full board. So those of you on the personnel committee will try to get that scheduled as soon as everyone's available.
So that would be good, because that was the number one issue on our survey that people were concerned about. And I can tell you now that the snow has melted, it's my number one issue in my neighborhood, so.
And the leaves aren't on the trees yet.
Yeah, so it really, I'm really, hoping we move forward with that. The planning commission also is going to be looking at, whether or not we will allow chickens in urban residential, because as of today, they are not allowed in urban residential in Marquette Township. So just so people are clear about that, because everybody's getting chickens, but not in Trowbridge, not yet. So we'll be giving more information about that as we proceed. I think that's probably it, Lynn.
That golf simulator building will be on Brickyard Road, over by Meyer, just so people know.
Yeah, and it should be exciting.
And he's got maybe, I think, 2 bays, and then they have a place that they can expand if they want to down further with parking.
And the gymnastics company is gonna be in there too, someone. He has a partner. So, yeah.
And
So,
then maybe a supply, like a
Yeah.
supply building or two.
so that's exciting for our community.
Totally different. And the car wash too, they were talking about.
Oh,
when the
yeah,
building comes
yeah.
down.
The burger place.
So
All
it's
that's,
building, yeah.
it's sold, right? Is that what they said?
Yeah, I don't know if they've got an agreement yet or where that is, but it's gonna be a high-tech car wash.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those long ones with like, what did he say, 10
I don't know.
vacuums or some crazy.
So you can all go get your car washed there
Yeah, like at the same time.
at the same time.
Where's that?
It's where the Chinese
Solar building,
restaurant was, and the bank was gonna go there once, and,
I'm
yeah.
gonna take those two
Yeah,
buildings
all the
down,
buildings.
up on the hill, like SCI.
They might be down, because Jason seemed to think they were coming down quickly.
They were today.
Not today.
Oh, okay, well, that wasn't that quickly yet then.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, are they, with the rental, or with the simulator for golf, that building, has anybody contacted the fire chief about training on that building before it comes down?
Oh, I have no
It would be
idea.
a great site for them to train on.
That house,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know.
It's a good question.
We don't know.
Okay.
I would guess not. That's not to say it can't happen. We can at least try. The conversation probably has not happened yet.
Okay?
Good idea then. Okay, any announcements from anybody?
Public comment first.
Oh, yeah, I just kind of passed that. Public comment. Anybody wants to comment? We lost some of our public. Okay, now announcements. Anything from anybody? Okay, manager, what have you been doing besides pushing gravel?
I used up all my report already. Really, this parking lot was so fast-tracked. I was out there 3 times a day. He didn't have time to wait, and my goal was to accommodate to the best I could. Some other things had to go on the back burner as a result, but now that it's done, NTN's basically going to clean up the portion that they will be responsible for this weekend. Their entire dirt ball annual work bee is based out of this trailhead this year. And they just changed it on their Facebook event yesterday, I believe. They'll have crews in other areas of their network, but almost everything will be based out of the Well Road this year. So pretty exciting how this whole thing came together so quickly because of 5 college kids and some generous donors from the NTN side.
You know what I was thinking just as I came in here, and I have no idea why. We changed over recently on our health insurance, and I was just wondering how that transition has gone, or has it happened?
Personally, I believe it's better because we don't have that gap insurance plan anymore. I still have a bill that the provider never sent to the secondary insurance, and it's enough that I want them to do it. But because they didn't do it themselves, I have to do it myself. And I had probably 24 other insurance claims that I had processed myself last year. Now that's all included in our base insurance, and the employee doesn't have that responsibility anymore.
So
It's
if
the
you
way
haven't-
insurance originally was intended to be.
And if you haven't heard anything, I guess that's good news.
Well,
Sure, they'd be
you know,
telling you.
everyone's deductibles reset on January 1, so that's until they reach their maximum. We're all back to paying for certain things again, but it's still pretty early in the year. Kim, have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything from anyone, and I know from the administrative side, the people to work with are phenomenal. Any questions you have, they answer within the day.
Great.
They've been great to work with.
Because we've had our insurance that we've had for a long time. Nothing against the provider, but.
I think the provider was good.
Yeah.
They did the best they could to give us the best coverage as long as they could, and unfortunately, the pool is just too big
You can't
to
beat
compete
it.
with. Our participation size is too small. That's the biggest thing. We're getting the benefit of thousands of other communities across the state because our risk is spread across all of them.
That was the same thing they said at the MERS meeting the other day, you know, just the economy of scale, having, I forget how many members she said, like 1,200 townships, or I forget how many people.
Members.
Yeah, because there's
Member
different-
communities.
Yeah, they've got libraries and everything else now, way different. It isn't just municipalities. So, okay, thanks for that. You want to review our motions unless somebody's got any questions?
Okay, first motion was the consent agenda was approved as presented. Second motion was regular agenda as presented, that was approved. Third motion was to approve the purchase agreement from Renovari with the minor change suggested from legal, that was approved. The fourth motion was to approve the purchase of the building and grounds tractor, that was approved. Fifth motion was to approve declaring the 2007 Chevy Silverado as surplus, and that was approved. Sixth motion was to declare the ice rink Zamboni as surplus, that was approved. Seventh motion was to consider the Raftelis proposal for assistance in crafting an interlocal water agreement, that was approved. Eighth motion was to approve James Borowski to the DDA Authority Board, that was approved. The ninth motion was to approve the first reading of amendments to the animal controlled ordinance, that was approved. 10th motion was to approve the resolution for the Marquette Township Non-Point Dead River Tributary Culvert Replacement Project, that was approved, roll call vote. And the 11th motion was to approve the change order number 1 for the trailhead parking lot, and that was approved.
That's business. Okay. Next meeting, we will have a Highline presentation on an update from the internet work that they're doing. That's all I have so far, so maybe we'll have a second reading, who knows? Comments from anybody?
The only thing I have, Lynn, which I missed in the announcements, is some of the residents, some of the voters got letters from me stating that we're going to discontinue the absentee voter list. What's happening is in the state, there's 2 lists going on right now, absentee voters and permanent ballot list. And there's absolutely no sense for us to keep 2 lists because it's just way too much work. So what I did is we sent letters to everyone on the absentee voter list, and we told them that that list is going to be disappearing here before the next election, and you have the option to get on the permanent ballot list, which means you'll get a ballot for every election that we have. There's no paperwork required. Every election, you'll get a ballot. Gets rid of a lot of the paperwork. If you want an absentee ballot, you don't want to be on the permanent ballot list, you can still come in the office, fill the form out and get one. We're just not going to keep that list anymore because it's just too much bothersome for my staff and myself, and people get confused and it's just too much work. So that's, and I think in one of the calendars, maybe next month, I saw the dog stuff on this last one. But maybe June's will put that letter that I sent out to the residents again, and if they want to, everyone's on that permanent ballot list, but if they're not and they want to join, we welcome them to do that. So, and that's all I have for that.
Okay. Anything else? Our next meeting's May 21st. And remember, if you want to come out to the landfill on 29th, see how the recycling works. It is pretty amazing. Bring good shoes because it's upstairs, metal stairs, and it's sticky. What else? Anything?
I'll move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
You're slow.
I
thought he fell asleep.
missed one meeting and look what happened.
Yeah.
7-Eleven.
We are adjourned at 7:11.
See what happened? You missed one?
I do not.